That was so great. Are you ready to talk?
Yeah, I can be. I've been known to be quite chatty. So whenever you're ready.
Knowing your brother, I believe it.
Yeah. Well, do you know anything about it? Like we're one of 12, and so there's 9 boys and 3 girls, and I would definitely say they're all pretty chatty. They're all pretty lippy. Let's put it like that.
Well, you gotta be chatty and lippy to get a word in with 12 of you.
Well, it's like every family gathering is just a roast. Like last Thanksgiving, my dad went around the table rating everyone from ugliest to least ugly.
All right, I'm going to start the podcast. What's up, everybody? It's Josh and Jess here with God Hates Unicorns, and we're here with another super amazing, awesome round of bands and artists we like that aren't as good as God Hates Unicorns, and we're here with Curtis from Brave New World.
Hello, what's up?
What's up? Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Where did you rate on the Thanksgiving attractiveness scale?
Well, I'm very middle of the ground. I think that my dad purposely does that to be insulting because there's like I would rather be the least ugly or the most ugly. Like I'd like to be one of the extremes to say that I stand out, but he's like, nah, you're average. We're not even paying attention to you.
Worse.
Right?
To the heart.
It's like the salt in the wound for the middle child syndrome.
Yes. Oh my God. So I mean, it's easy. We were just talking. It's easy to be a middle child when there are 12.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's easy to stay off the radar. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know. So,
yeah,
but it's definitely interesting. I think it's quite fun, actually.
Yeah.
I want to have 12 kids one day.
No, you don't. No, look at me. Anyway, because I do not.
I like the idea of a big family. I think you should stop at like 4 though. You know, I think 4 gives the big family feel, but like, you know, you're not pregnant for a decade. You know,
like over a decade. That's like a lot.
Right?
That's a lot of room needed.
Ever
Right.
watch that Kid Farm?
No.
It was like Pete Holmes. He's like a late night host, and he had a little thing about like a kid farm and like 15, 20 kids, and he had it's pretty funny.
I like Pete Holmes. I think he's his humor is very interesting.
Yeah, like, and they're all like very religious and stuff in the kid farm, and like there's like a teenager drinking breast milk out of like a sippy cup, and
oh wow.
That this is a parody. This isn't like a real thing.
Right.
But it's great.
But it's probably based on a real thing somewhere. Like these ideas don't just fall out of the sky.
No, nothing does. Everything's like this is really funny. It's like, wow. Check out these people.
Well, I was 1 of 12 siblings. When did you stop drinking breast milk?
I was probably 9 or 10, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So not too old.
Not weird.
No, totally normal in my household.
Brave New World. Tell us about it.
So Brave New World. So I was in a band when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, maybe. That it did pretty well. We got pretty popular around Pittsburgh. I had a pretty not good budding drug problem at the time, as well as the bassist of the band, and that kind of like dismantled that band. And then that's when me and Christian, the drummer, had started this new project, right? And it's funny. So I'm like a terrible musician. Like I don't know anything about music. Like I remember the first band I tried to start when I was like 14. I didn't understand the concept of time. Like you have to stay in time. And people kept telling me like stay in time. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Like I couldn't wrap my head around it. Right. And then as I I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, which I have a funny story about how I got into that. I literally was just inspired by Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny and was like,
right.
Yeah. So especially that open scene, because my dad like forbid it in my house. Like there's like no rock and roll in this house. And then that opening scene where he's like Meatloaf as his father, and he's like, "Fuck you, Dad! I'm rocking and rolling." So I watched that movie and it like convinced me. So anyhow, it sends me down this path. And as I'm trying to learn to like, I always wanted to like write my own songs, but I didn't know shit about music. And then also like, okay, when it came to singing, I was a terrible guitar player and I was a pretty shitty singer as well. And I'm just trying to do both, and I can't do both at the same time because it requires you to stay in time with each other, and I just cannot do it, right? So a lot of the times in bands I spent was being support members, whether I was playing keyboard or guitar and different, other positions in bands, because I started being able to fake it enough to like hang in there with the other guys, but there's no way in hell I could play guitar and sing at the same time,
Mhm.
So then, like I said, this is probably like 2012. I start this band with Christian, and we decide that we're going to do this like Black Keys style, just guitar, drummers, vocals thing. And we were pretty bad, I would say, pretty bad. And I was still struggling pretty bad, but I started understanding how to write. Like I started getting better at writing songs. Like conceptually, what I had in my head was like good. It was just making it, right? So then we got some other members, and again, my drug problems were like slowly escalating, which was pushing people away. I couldn't maintain members very long. The only person that's ever stuck with me the whole time is Christian, right? And so there was like different members, and then we had like started recording, and we wanted to do like a 4-song EP, and we ended up scrapping that. And then I kept writing more songs, and then we probably recorded the full length 4 times and lost band members and found new members and scrapped it and started over and finished the whole thing and scrapped it and started over. So this version of it is like I said, number 5, fully recording it with, again, now that we have Alex and Kyle's the lead guitarist and Alex is the bass player. And as many times as me and Christian have talked about this actually, as many members as we swapped out and replaced and moved on and had to like kind of start over. We both talked the other day where we're like, listen, if Alex or Kyle ever quit the band, like we're done. You know what I mean? Like they're perfect. They're perfect for what we're trying to do. Because I think with all 4 of us, there is like a weird symbiotic relationship where I didn't know Kyle. Christian was friends with Kyle. I didn't know Kyle. I was introduced to Kyle through Christian. And Alex was our old guitarist, brought Alex into the band to play bass and then quit the next day. And I was like, Alex, you still want to play bass? We can go to this guy Kyle's house and play. And he was like, okay. And like, we just developed a really good relationship. And I mean, we're all really good friends now, so there's like that, there's like a personal bond. Our like musical taste is very similar. And I definitely, even though like on this first album, Catharsis, like those were all songs that I had previously written, but they're definitely not like, they wouldn't be what they are without Alex and Kyle's influence in that,
It's so bombastic. Catharsis, oh my gosh. So it's like such a journey to listen to, and I just love it. Like I feel like the entirety of it's not like this enormous project, but it feels so big. Like it's, you feel this like immense pain going into it. There's so many, great. The guitar is nuts, by the way. Don't get rid of that guitarist. But,
oh no, I'm telling you, he's like, I don't even know how to explain it. And the kid just comes up with it. Like it's like the first thing he puts out is just dope. And you're like, how? I don't understand. And I'm just gonna stay out of it and let you do your thing.
It's beautiful, and it's just like this place. Like, and this is just my interpretation, this place of like so much pain and so much, just this struggle, and then there's this beautiful interlude, and I don't know if it's meant to be an interlude, but like the middle song where it's just like so much instrumental and there's just so much feeling in it, and then it's like,
are you talking about with the electric piano?
Yeah,
so that is actually, that part is meant to simulate an overdose.
Wow, okay.
So that the very beginning where like the song Broken Man ends and it just kind of drops into that weird feedback loop. And that loop, you keep thinking it's going to end. And then it starts like, it's like, wow, wow. And it's panning from back and forth. So especially if you're listening to it in headphones, it feels like deep anxiety. Like the first time I forget who it was, but it was my sister. And she was sitting with me in the car and I'm like, check this out. I got one of the tracks back from the recording engineer and we're listening to it. And she's just like, she's sitting there holding her chest like this. And she was like, what was that? I said, did it make you anxious? And she said, yeah. And I said, that's exactly what it was supposed to do. But then it drops into this extremely like peaceful, tranquil, like the way it makes me feel is like you're underneath like that crystal clear blue Caribbean water and everything's just quiet, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. And I'm a very anxious person. So I'm just like, this feels very safe and normal. This is my everyday. And then, but no, but it was such like just that track. Yeah, it was so emotional and it was so big. And then it goes into the rest. And I felt like, there was this like this hopeful element, but it wasn't this, and I think that in the kind of cycle of growing and recovery and everything like that, it was such a beautiful piece. And it's a piece that it's all of the tracks are great by themselves, but it does need to be listened beginning to end.
Well, and yeah, and like, so like the story goes, I kind of think this is like really the nature of any transformation. And I use a lot of metaphors about like dirt in the ground and the woods. In fact, the next album is called The Woods. It's like a returning, like the next album is very much a sequel to this one, where it's like a callback to the same ideology. Really, it's based in like Joseph Campbell's idea of the hero's journey, right? And the hero, in order to save the city or the princess, he always has to enter the woods or the cave or this thing, which is really the unconscious. It's like the self, that you have to go in and reclaim something or fix something that's broken or reclaim something that's missing in order to bring it back. And then the final stage is to distribute that to the broader community, to use that to like help those around you, right? So even though it's coming from a different perspective, because the first one is really about, because I'm young at the time, right? Dirt is really like the narrator of this. The whole thing's a novel. It's like the narrator. And it's setting the tone for for like nihilism, right? Where it's like, I just was feeling this very nihilistic perspective. And then Breed is the awareness of the monster within you and like leaning into like, that's why it's called Breed. It's like almost like it's becoming, it's almost like Venom, right? Venom and Eddie Brock. It's like they're becoming each other, right? And then that idea of like allowing that to happen and not knowing where one ends and where the other begins. And then Beggars is about the extreme dark world that is created by breeding with that monster within you instead of transforming away from it. Dreams is about the realization that now we're trapped in this idea and there may be no freedom for it other than death. Broken Man is really, it's like every line in the song is really just an expression of why I think that I shouldn't exist. And then The Devil Never Sleeps is really like, okay, so we have sunk in again with that interlude, and it's like supposed to be representative of death, right? So now we're on the plane where the monster lives, right? So it's like now we have to battle it on its plane. It's not in you, it's on you, right? So like we have to fight in its world, and that's universe is really the ascension from hell, and then spit it out as that cathartic understanding or the spirit of transformation. It's like the perspective, like your lens has changed now as a result of this, and like you use that to spread to the broader community. And that's really what the album is about, is that process of transformation.
Can I tell you my favorite quote from the album? I always have to write it down because I'm always listening in the car, and then I have to voice to text it. Hang on.
I'm gonna steal one of your lines though.
Yeah? Which one?
What you just said. It's not in you, it's on you.
It's not in you, it's on you.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful to me. And I had to like in traffic, like probably almost hit somebody. When I can't speak, I will try to sing.
Oh yeah. So that's always been a big thing. So I'm like very fortunate, even though it took me a really long time to understand anything about music to be able to create something that I think is worthwhile. I'm very fortunate to be able to have that as a form of expression, because again, I grew up with, you know, my dad's like old. So my dad's 86 years old. He's military guy. I have 8 brothers. Like I was never in a position where like vulnerability was respected or like could be tolerated really. Right. And that's what led to bitterness and resentment and nihilism, you know, and having music is a form of saying like, look, I don't know how to express these things. I don't know how to speak about these things. I don't know if I can, but I'll do my best to sing, you know. In fact, the very last line in the next album says, oh God, where have you been? I'm here, I'm alive, and I started singing again.
It's a beautiful piece. I am so excited for everybody to hear it. And when is it coming out?
So, and again, I was mentioning this earlier, it's either February 4th or February 6th. Originally, I was told February 6th, but then I saw a post Christian put out the other day that said February 4th. So if on the 4th, if you're pumped to see this thing or listen to this thing on the 4th, it's not there. Don't panic. By the 6th, it should be there.
So let me ask you the question that everybody's really been thinking about. I think from the start of this podcast, the anticipation. How do you feel about Lasagna Cat?
Oh, well.
And Lasagna Cat, let's tell the audience, is like this Garfield-esque YouTube thing that is like this. It's so magical.
So it's like a loop. It's like it is the most like deeply unconscious, like it's in like the deepest parts of your cerebellum it affects. Like I don't know how to describe it any other way than that, but it's like a loop of different stages of Garfield where it's not about Garfield. I forget his owner's name, but it's about the owner.
John. Yes.
And it's about how miserable his fucking life is. Yes. And how he's going through life and everything sucks. And it's like the colors being sapped out of everything. And he's like comparing himself to the cat. And like the cat has like he's jealous of this cat. Like his life is so shitty. He's like jealous of this cat. But like the thing goes on and it's a very long video. So this was a very long time ago.
Wait, was it not like because there are a lot of like short clips and I'm gonna send them all to you and we're gonna talk about them at length. But then there was a very long clip that was like the weird, like people called in to talk about like weird sex things. It was so bizarre.
Well, I will tell you, like there's a big section that we skipped. So it's important to know some context here. So this is a very long time ago. It was a time when I was still taking drugs, and we had eaten some pretty potent mushrooms, and I believe it was New Year's Eve, and we are sitting in this house, and it was just me and Christian, and we've taken these mushrooms, and we're talking, you know, like bullshit, New Year, and like blah, 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 right? And we're also like hoping to have some kind of crazy spiritual, psychological experience to like reset us for this upcoming year, right? That's, from what I remember, that's kind of the context. So he's like, I have to show you something. So he puts this on with no warning, like I have no fucking clue. And I'm just watching it. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, don't ask questions, just keep watching. And then I'd be like, what is this? Now I'm starting to peak a little bit. Like it's starting to come up, you know, and it's hard to say, you know, what I'm experiencing, if it's actually what it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I got questions, right? And I keep saying like, what is this? What is that? And he's like, don't ask questions, just keep watching. So he keeps watching it. And then finally he grabs it and just speeds it up to the very end. And the very end is just a shot from like the base of a toilet looking up, and it's a woman in a urinal and she's just giving birth. So it's just the baby crowning. And as the baby's head crowns and blood splatters, all the fucking power in the house just shuts off. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened, right? And so finally the lights turn back on, and I'm thinking he staged the whole thing. So now I don't trust him because I feel like he's like a little Loki trickster god, and somehow he's gotten into my head and he was able to stage all that. I'm like, how did you, like, what the fuck was that? I was so convinced that basically our little room that we were in was just transported in outer space. And if I walked outside, everything was gone. It was... So, and again, obviously my interpretations of what was going on was much more psilocybin related than Lasagna Cat related.
Yeah.
However, Lasagna Cat set the fucking tone. And that I don't know, when you mentioned earlier about sending clips, I don't know if I'm ready to watch them again.
No, most of the funny thing about Lasagna Cat is for several years it wasn't like that. Like the last one was very disturbing, but all of the rest of them are like weird, but like very charming in their own way. They're like a little bit like unsettling slightly, but it's just, I don't know. I don't want to, we'll talk about this at length. But yeah, the last one, they had this thing where it's just like this internet fucking treasure that they had these little videos that they do like a little act.
Oh, so there's more than one of these things.
There's so many. You just saw the last one.
Yeah, and I one was enough, I think.
The other ones aren't so bad. The last one was bad.
Honestly, the only thing I've ever seen more disturbing than that was when I was in 7th grade, I think. There was a kid named Kenny Newroar, and him and this other kid were always they were watching weird shit. And I was over at Kenny Newroar's house, and he was watching the Mutilation Olympics.
What?
I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's like, listen, it's like these guys that cut their dicks off on the internet, like they like just like mutilate themselves, like they'll like they do. It was like they put firecrackers in there. They're just doing wild shit. I don't know if they're on PCP. I don't know, but I literally oh wait, no, it wasn't Kenny's fault. It was this other little guy. He was like super into this shit, and he got me and Kenny to come watch it with him. And 15 seconds in, Kenny puked all over the fucking keyboard. And I was like, yep, that 15 seconds was enough for me. I'm good, guys. Thank you.
The Mutilation Olympics. Okay, so first of all, try not to blow your dick off.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. This is what I found so disturbing. But actually, I remember being a little kid and like it bothering me at nighttime going to bed because they're like smiling and shit. Like they're not well. You know what I mean? Like there's something wrong. Like they're either on drugs and they're going to wake up tomorrow and be like, what the fuck did I just do? Or they're so twisted up that, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt bad for them, you know, like that's terrible. Like, I hope somebody hugs them or something, you know what I mean? Like gives them one single word of encouragement so they stop doing this to themselves.
They're just forever optimists.
Why? Explain your statement.
Because they can blow their dick off and still smile about it.
But you don't.
Well, you know, you can make an argument for that.
What's the worst? What's the worst thing happen?
They're like, ain't nothing gonna get me down. Watch this.
Just loving life.
I do like a positive attitude.
Yeah.
I do like that. I think that's important. So
do anything, do a smile on your face.
Okay. That's not the takeaway from this podcast, please. For the love of, please don't make this the takeaway. Don't blow your dick off. Just don't do that. You can do other things and be happy about them. But
like nails and
what does that mean?
like nail your dick.
Oh, no.
They did do that. That was a thing. Yeah.
Scissors.
Well, let's see. Maybe.
Well, we don't have to drag it out with this. You know, we can. I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, don't be sorry. I think it's important for us to think about, and like I do feel like maybe
Is that important for us to think about?
It's important to think
You know what? I think what's important to think about today would be the Mutilation Olympics in 2006. You know, how many 13-year-old boys watched this shit and couldn't keep a smile on their face? Their lack of optimism is obvious. Honestly, it's astonishing.
It's astonishing, and you know what? Do better next time. 32-year-old boys.
One question though.
Okay.
Do they have like gold, silver, and bronze medals, and they all go on the pedestals afterwards?
I have no idea. I only watched 15 seconds of it. I'm not a goddamn psychopath. You know what I mean? The other little fella whose name I can't remember, that boy, I don't know where he's at nowadays, but
I love that boy. So, you know, I think the thing that we glossed over here is how fucking hard you fought to get where you are today. And I know that the position you're in now, work-wise, and I don't know if you're able to talk about it or not, you're helping others.
so we can talk in theory. We probably shouldn't talk like specific names. But I do. Yeah, and also too, because I'm like, I don't know if the company would be like, don't be mixing our name with some
No.
fucking rock and roll shit you do, you know?
Right.
No, I do crisis intervention work. Like I help people get into treatment. I help them through the treatment process. I do a lot of like family engagement stuff, helping parents understand how to deal with somebody who's struggling, you know, because and it really is kind of that it ain't in you, it's on you. It's very much like demonic possession. And you watch these people struggle because, you know, their child, like their little girl, you know, has turned into this monster and they don't know what to do, you know? And the thing is everything they're inclined to do is typically hurtful, not helpful. So being able to take them and kind of rewire how they're thinking about the subject, it really benefits a lot of people because, you know, obviously there's lying, there's manipulation, there's hiding things, there's, you know, people don't know the truth, people don't know what the hell it is, you know, because it is a brain disease, you know, it's an impairment of your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that makes decisions, you know. So when people are like, I don't get why people can't just stop, it's like, well, to use or not use is a choice, and the part of their brain that makes choices is not operating correctly. So there's more details to it. We don't have to go all the way into it, but it's there's a biological event in their neuropathology. Like it's serious. It's a real thing. You can look into it, and like when you realize that and you stop, like, say, you know, I hear this all the time, like, oh, they got to make their own choices.
No.
It's like, well, look, that they're incapable though. And the thing is if you co-sign bad decision making and you help them make bad choices, you go along with things you don't agree with. Like I was just talking to a mom recently, and she was upset because she did the right thing. She got on the phone with her son. Her son was trying to feed her some bullshit, manipulate her to do something that wasn't a good idea. But she was educated and she was nervous, but she did it, right? And afterwards, she calls me and she says, and I feel bad. He seemed discouraged. He seemed upset. And I said, let me ask you something. We'll call her Jane. We'll call the kid John. So I said, Jane, let me ask you something. So you get on the phone with John today, and damn well knowing that the plan he wants to do could cost him his life. You go along with what you don't agree with, and you tell him what he wants to hear. Who does that serve? Is that John's needs or Jane's needs?
Mm-hmm.
I said, at a certain point, you have to realize, and there are some sick families out there where it's more about their needs and their fulfillment and the person liking them or feeling control, right? I see all kinds of sick families that control addicts with money, like they'll enable them and, you know, or like abusive husbands that their wives are addicted and they give them drugs in order for control. There's all kinds of fucked up shit that goes on. But the bottom line is if you're genuinely trying to do the right thing, you told the kid the truth from a point of love and you set a boundary. There was no malice. There was no, you know, there was no intent to harm him. It was to help him. It wasn't what he wanted to hear, but you suited his needs and sacrificed your own comfortability. There's nothing unethical about that. And that made it obvious. She was like, dude, thank you for saying that, you know, because I felt bad. And I was like, look, sometimes you got to let them go through it. You deny someone their pain, you deny them their growth. So that's kind of, I do a lot of family work. So.
And I was specifically, without naming names, somebody like you, I was in a position where I was the only person that was like trying to do that kind of thing. But like I had the family and I had so many factors, but like somebody who's in the position that you're in saved the life of somebody that I love deeply. And, you know, just seeing like it can get better, but you need to do what's right for that person. So
and like I tell them too, it's not even, it's one, absolutely you can get better. Absolutely. Right. And it's not all that complicated. It's really, and again, so like if you look at, you know, like 12 steps and stuff like that, like I think the which I'm not knocking by any means, I'm saying that the way in which they're written, right, can be a little complex, especially as someone who doesn't have any wherewithal, right? Especially young people. Yeah. So I was like, look, here's all you got to worry about right now. You recognize there's a problem. Things are bad. And also you don't know what to do about it, right? That's very important because if you did, you'd do something about it. So you got to have some humility here and say like, okay, shit, I'm in trouble and I don't know what to do. And then the second step is about like, is it possible for things to be different?
Mhm.
Well, once you come to believe that that's possible, and you know that because when you admit a problem, you simultaneously acknowledge the potential of a solution. And the third one is about following directions because you want to make change, but remember, you don't know what to do about it. So you have to follow directions because your own fucking twisted programming needs rewired, right? So that being said, really that kind of comes back to the album because I always explain to people because this feels so miserable while you're going through it. And I try to tell them that this is the best thing that will ever happen to you. If you conquer it, it will be the best thing that ever happens to you. And I always use the example of the forest fire, right? Which is a prevalent metaphor throughout both albums, which is, you know, the forest fire, when you see it, looks like raging chaos and destruction. Terrible. But why is it there? See, the forest gets sick. All this dead wood starts falling and piling up on the forest floor, and new seeds can't germinate because they can't get light because they're all fighting for limited light. So it dries out and it gets arid and it starts becoming uninhabitable by wildlife. And then the catalyst happens and the fire rips through and it burns out all that dead wood and it creates rich, new fertile soil for new life to grow. That's how the forest flourishes and grows when it gets sick, right? So I try to explain to people that like this is, it's not happiness. It's better than that. Like it's worth more than that. It's more meaningful than that. And if you can start looking at chaos and recognizing that if you stare at it long enough, the thing you're truly looking for is in there, right? But you have to look at the thing you don't want to see. That's where the answers are, you know, and there's a lot of taking responsibility and admitting and truth and honesty and willingness, you know, and some gratitude as well, you know, but that's, you know, that's what that album is about.
Oh, I love it. And I'm so sick of you and your brothers making me teary-eyed. Yeah, I'll do that. Stop it. No, don't stop it. Keep it going. Thank you so much, Curtis. This has been such a pleasure to have you. Please check out Brave New World. I can't wait to share a little bit more about the album soon. And thank you for what you do and what you do to help people. And we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I had fun.
No problem. Links are down below.
Yes.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Lasagna Cat. Bye.